So, good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming in the last few hours of the event. So, my first question is, how does a dev machine get owned? So, think of some answers in your mind and think like if your machine gets compromised, what could be one way it would get compromised? So, some common answers could be some malformed USB or some phishing mails or some installing of some malicious browser extension, right? But does npm install comes to anyone's mind? Because this is right now the most threat-worthy npm install that's going on. So recently there was this famous package Axios, which has millions of downloads per week, but was compromised due to an maintainer's account being compromised, and all the developers that installed the package were compromised, led to credential steal and their account and their developer machine being compromised too. So I'm Sahil and I currently work at SafeDep as a software engineer, and I currently work on open source security tooling, and these are my socials. And this is the agenda that we'll be going over today. We'll be looking at how attack looks like and what are the challenges for the defense and how does the defense eventually looks like. So recently in the initial days of this month itself, there was a attack on Red Hat packages, and it was named Mini Shahilud, which mainly started with the maintainer's account takeover, which steals the npm credentials and installs the pre-install hook to the packages, and any developer that installs those packages were compromised with steal credentials grab, and also the attempts to the host machines being compromised. And it did not stop there. There were attempts to spread this same attack, that is the self-replicating npm bomb, where any npm credential it got, it injected the same malicious payload to the packages and tried to spread all this same malicious payload to numbers of packages. So is there no defense against this? We already have some famous tools to protect against security, such as SBOMs, SCA tools, registry detection, and many more. But the main issue is the stage these all tools come into play. All these tools are mainly during the pipeline or the CI checks, but the time the developer installs the package, there are no checks, and the developer is already compromised before the package is eventually flagged. So let's have a look at the timeline where the attacker eventually publishes the package and the developer installs it, and the developer is still not aware if the package is malicious or is it safe. But on the background, all those post-install scripts are being executed, all the credentials are grabbed, the system is compromised, and developer is still not aware. And when the developer eventually pushes to the remote repository, all those CI checks are executed, and then the package is meant to be known that it could be malicious. But the damage is already done. The developer's machine is compromised, the credentials are grabbed, and there is nothing developer can do right now. So where's the real gap? The gap is the install time. That's the front door that we have to guard, and we have been working on guarding the back door, where it comes into play very late. So let's have a look at the attack and how does these attacks look like. So there are various attack surfaces, but let's have a look at this common attack surface. So Typosquatting, everyone knows, like attackers intentionally misspell the famous packages name, such as in this example you can see low dash, there is H and S placed differently, where developers might install the package and might not be aware of this misspell of the package name. Dependency confusion. There are times where the package might be the package name or the registry might be wrong, or such as your there could be two same packages in a private registry or in public registry, but your internal tooling might pick up the public registry one, which could be potentially malicious, or the compromised package. The same as the Axios one, the maintainer could be compromised, the package gets hacked, the package gets all those malicious payload, and all of these attack surfaces points to one thing, that is the main choke point, that is the installation. So let me show you how this compromised package looks like on a developer's machine. So I will just do a simple installation of a package, which is a synthetic package which tries to read all those credentials on my machine, which are SSH keys and AWS credentials. And on the right side, you can see, and this is a honeypot which basically impersonates the attacker's terminal, that is the credentials that are grabbed from the user's machine. And you can see all these credentials are stolen from my machine. And if you think that npm audit might help in here in knowing if the package is malicious or not, it doesn't. It says found 0 vulnerabilities. Why? Because it only relies on known CVEs and it can't protect against day 0 malware attacks. And why is the defense hard at install time? Why are there not much tools? Why is there not much focus? So let's look at a few challenges that we faced during the building of this solution. And that is speed. So many developers execute npm install like hundreds of times each day, but even if there is a 2 or 3 seconds delay in per installation, the developers get annoyed and eventually just uninstall their security tool, which is a trade-off, but developers need to be aware that this 2 or 3 seconds can eventually make it or break it, this system. Compatibility. So the npm installation is just an example. There are just so many ecosystems, so many package managers. There have been attacks in the Python ecosystem which have led to other compromises. There have been use of burn runtime for compromises. So this is not just specific to npm. These are specific, these can be in future there can be more ecosystems that could be compromised. It could be cargo in future, it could be PHP and many others. So this is not just limited to npm. Day 0 malware. We cannot rely on static block lists, such as like, let's see, like we maintain a list that some payload like this would be termed as malicious and all. No, we can't, because we need real-time analysis. And that's the same example in Axios again. The package was published just 18 hours before, and it was a sub-dependency of Axios. It wasn't even a direct dependency in Axios. It was a transitive dependency which led to the compromise of Axios. So we cannot rely on static block list where malware changes every day. Attackers find out new ways to attack and get the access to developer's machine. And eventually the scripts. Scripts are important for setting up the environment for build toolings or various other stuff. So we cannot really block all the scripts that the packages execute, because there are genuine packages that rely on these scripts. And what if we let them all execute? That's the same case as old compromises where the developer machines eventually gets compromised. So the real solution is containment, but not prohibition. So we need to execute scripts in a contained environment. That is, we can use sandboxes for executing in an isolated environment and giving access to only what's required and protecting all those sensitive directories or files. So what's the solution? So currently we have this 4 layers of defense, which starts with threat intel layer, policy layer, then the sandbox layer, and last the audit layer. So let's go one by one on each layer. The threat intel layer. So this is nothing but just a proxy server running between your package manager and your package manager's registry. So whenever a package manager runs npm install or any package manager installation, the proxy searches up the package from the backend and gets a verdict for the package. Is the package malicious? Is the package safe? And if the package is termed to be safe, the flow continues with no interruptions. And if the package turns out to be malicious, the package is blocked and it never touches your system. You are safe and you get a message. And this is not just for a direct dependency. There could be some transitive dependency that might get blocked. Policy, the dependency cooldown. There are attacks that may get through the threat intel and might not be blocked by threat intel. We need to protect against those attacks. And we can protect against these attacks by the dependency cooldown, where we do not allow for new packages to be installed on the system. And that's what Axios might, and if we take example of the Axios again, we might have been saved because of it, because it was just published 18 hours early, and PMG would have blocked it right then and there. And the sandbox, this is the most interesting one. So sandbox is really an innovative piece because we can configure it with allowing and denying specific paths. So in this example, as you can see, let's take an example where a script executes, but we only give access to the current project. We do not give access to the SSH credentials, the AWS credentials, or any kind of config. And we only want the project or the scripts to be executed in this environment and gain access to specific to this. And this is not very restrictive. We allow for sandbox to be configured and configure it according to your needs, such as allow for some specific paths, deny for some specific paths, allow some executables and stuff like that. And currently we support Linux and macOS thanks to the seatbelt in macOS and landlock sandbox in Linux. And the last layer, auditing. So there are still times where the package might have slipped through all those things and the package is known to be malicious after a few days. And you might be searching, oh, did I install that package or did I not? So auditing helps us in knowing if the package is installed already or not, and also helps teams gain wider visibility and know if the package was installed on the machine or not. So let's look at the defense. This is another demo. So let me show you the same example with PMG sandbox. So let me show you the layers in action. So this is the layer 1 example, which is the threat intel, where TurboAxios is a known malicious package, but was blocked thanks to the threat intel. And if we try out the same synthetic package with sandbox this time, you can see all of this access was blocked, and on the attacker side there was nothing stolen. All the read access to the SS credentials and AWS credentials were blocked, and the credentials never left your machine. So what's missing and what are we doing? So this is kind of a future roadmap where currently for each package analysis, we currently trip to the backend and get the package analysis. For frequent packages, we are working on introducing a cache where for frequent packages, we do not have to make a trip to the backend again and again and reduce latency. Sandbox is still opt-in and not default on. So sandbox still needs. So we are still working on optimizing the sandbox for all various needs, because each system needs its own different requirements and has its own native modules to be worked on. Private registries. So private registries is still something that threat intel is working on and needs support for, because private registries are mostly safe because of the internal concerns and internal management of the system. But still there are times where the private packages are dependent on public packages, which needs to be scanned for. And PMG currently supports the Node NPM and the Python ecosystem, but we add support for new ecosystem based on the user needs and what's the response from the users. So SBOMs, CI scanning, and all of these tools, they are wrong. They are just at the different place and they are meant for different stuff. Install time is what that is currently left, and that's what matter right now because of the recent attacks. And just today morning, there was another attack on another campaign going on a famous company, and so these attacks never stop. They were Shy Hello 2.0, and these attacks keep on coming and target the same choke point, that is the installation. PMG is fully open source, and you can scan the QR code and or install it through the brew. And we actively work on contributions, and are happy to accept any kind of contributions. We have various issues, and you can actively contribute. We have various new issues such as more ecosystem support or sandboxing for Windows, which could be a interesting implementation for people in low level stuff, interested in low level stuff. That's all. Thank you. If you have any questions, yes.
First of all, you did a good job.
Thank you.
Take a deep breath, drink some water. What I want to ask is, why is this a completely separate thing than being done from within NPM or Pun?
I think they primarily focus on just the management of registries or stuff like that, because like it's an internal concern of them itself, because there are registries which do not see this much type of attacks, and this is primarily NPM which faces this kind of attacks.
That's right. So, I'm a downstream packager for Arch Linux on the AUR. I maintain like 170 packages. We've seen a huge Cyberloot campaign
Yeah.
attacking all these packages on the AUR. And all of them, it started with NPM being installing a package called Atomic Log File, I think is the one that was compromised.
Okay.
In Arch's post-install scripts. So it
Yeah.
was a regular package installing, and then it post-installs the NPM.
Yes.
After that, once we mitigated that, they started using Pun. So I
Yeah.
think this safety needs to be within NPM and Pun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like their own internal concern on how much they focus on security and stuff though. Yeah.
The ideal state. Now and then, I think that's.
Yeah. Yes.
And just to add in, this ecosystem have other package managers that is PNPM and YAL. They have already implemented two of these things, sandboxing and cooldown period.
Okay.
Only NPM client is currently in a.
That's good. Since NPM is primary, the onus falls on them to increase the default security.
Yes. Yeah, currently we support most of the package managers from NPM and Python ecosystem. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? Yes. Sorry? It's like normal 2 or 3 seconds, and depends on the number of packages. Like if you're doing a manifest installation, there would be hundreds of packages. So per package, I would say 1 or 2 seconds max. From the yes.
Will it also cover vulnerabilities found through NPM audits?
No, vulnerabilities are different stuff. So we currently mainly focus on malwares which are intentionally harmful, and for vulnerabilities we do not take account into those. We do have in future roadmap like to add support for to bring your own like database or kind of registries such as open. There is OSV and all these databases that you can use and integrate into PMG. That is in future roadmap. Yes.
Are you guys maintaining the list of compromised packages, and how are you often updating them to, like, if new vulnerability is found in package, how are you updating that to the system?
So the concept behind the threat intel is that we have a whole backend which continuously analyzes all those open source packages and maintain, and we have different layers in that goes through, that each package goes through, and currently maintain a database for all those compromised packages.